Buddhist principles will offer a more in-depth understanding of how these teachings can be applied to cultivate inner peace, resilience, and unshakable calm. This longer format will allow us to explore the history, philosophy, and practical application of each principle, providing a holistic view of how Buddhism approaches the development of inner peace. The introduction. In a world filled with distractions, conflicts, and uncertainties, maintaining inner peace can seem like a daunting task. The constant demands of work, relationships, and societal expectations often pull us in multiple directions, leaving little time for self-reflection and inner tranquility. But what if there was a way to remain unshaken by external influences, a state of being where insults, challenges, and the chaos around us no longer disturb our mental equilibrium? Buddhism, one of the world's oldest spiritual traditions, offers a pathway to achieving this state of peace. Through its core teachings, Buddhism emphasizes the development of mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom to navigate life's ups and downs with grace. Central to these teachings are principles that focus on transforming our mindset and approach to life's inevitable challenges. These principles, when understood and practiced, can help us cultivate an inner sanctuary of peace that remains unshaken by the world's turbulence. Let's dive deep into 10 transformative Buddhist principles that can guide us toward achieving this inner calm. As the Buddha himself said, peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. These teachings, drawn from ancient wisdom, are as relevant today as they were thousands of years ago. By integrating these principles into our daily lives, we can build resilience, cultivate compassion, and ultimately live with a sense of contentment that is unaffected by external circumstances. Principle 1: Insult and offense. One of the most challenging aspects of human relationships is dealing with insults, criticism, or offenses from others. Whether at work, home, or in social settings, we inevitably encounter people who may say or do things that hurt us. In such moments, our instinctive reaction is often to defend ourselves, lash out, or internalize the insult, which leads to anger, resentment, and prolonged emotional suffering. Buddhism teaches us a powerful way to neutralize the impact of insults and offenses by recognizing that these hurtful words or actions only have power if we give them power. The analogy of a stone being thrown into a pond is often used to illustrate this point. When the stone hits the water, it creates ripples, but eventually the water returns to its natural state of stillness. Similarly, when someone insults us, their words may initially cause a ripple of emotional disturbance. However, we can choose to let the disturbance fade by not holding on to the insult. As the Buddha famously said, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. This metaphor highlights the self-destructive nature of anger and resentment. When we cling to negative emotions caused by insults or offenses, we are the ones who suffer. The person who hurt us may have long forgotten their words or actions, while we continue to carry the burden of our own anger. The Buddhist practice of mindfulness helps us observe our emotions without being consumed by them. When we are mindful, we become aware of the emotions that arise in response to insults, but we do not identify with them. Instead of reacting impulsively, we take a step back and examine the situation with clarity. We may realize that the insult is more a reflection of the other person's state of mind than our own. This awareness allows us to respond with compassion rather than hostility. Moreover, Buddhism teaches us that everyone is subject to ignorance, delusion, and suffering. When someone insults us, it may be because they are experiencing their own pain, frustration, or confusion. By seeing their actions through the lens of compassion, we can choose not to let their negativity affect us. Instead of fueling the cycle of anger, we can maintain our peace and offer understanding, recognizing that the other person is also on their own journey of growth and healing. In practice, letting go of insults requires patience and self-awareness. It may not happen overnight, but with consistent mindfulness and compassion, we can train our minds to remain calm and unshaken in the face of hurtful words or actions. The key is to remember that our inner peace is our own responsibility. No one can take it away unless we allow them to. Principle 2: Transform everyone into a teacher. In Buddhism, the concept of teacher extends far beyond formal spiritual instructors or gurus. Every person we encounter, whether friend, foe, or stranger, has the potential to teach us valuable lessons about ourselves and the world. This principle invites us to adopt a mindset of openness and curiosity, viewing each interaction as an opportunity for growth and self-reflection. The Buddha's teachings emphasize that our actions, thoughts, and behaviors are intricately linked to those of others. When watching after yourself, you watch after others. When watching after others, you watch after others, you watch after yourself, the Buddha said, highlighting the interconnectedness of all beings. This interconnectedness means that we are constantly influencing and being influenced by those around us. By seeing everyone as a teacher, we shift from a reactive mindset to one of learning and growth. If someone is kind and generous, they remind us of the power of compassion and inspire us to cultivate those qualities within ourselves. If someone is difficult, rude, or unkind, they provide us with an opportunity to practice patience, tolerance, and forgiveness. For example, imagine a situation where a colleague at work criticizes you harshly in front of others. Your immediate reaction might be to feel embarrassed, angry, or defensive. However, if you view this colleague as a teacher, you can step back and ask, what can I learn from this situation? Perhaps the criticism reveals an area where you can improve, or it gives you a chance to practice staying calm and composed under pressure. Even the most challenging people in our lives, those who test our patience and push our buttons, can be seen as valuable teachers. These individuals help us become aware of our own emotional triggers and areas where we still have work to do. By approaching them with an attitude of gratitude rather than resentment, we transform difficult interactions into opportunities for self-improvement. This principle also applies to positive experiences. When someone shows us kindness, generosity, or wisdom, we can take inspiration from their actions and incorporate those qualities into our own lives. By emulating the virtues of others, we grow and evolve into better versions of ourselves. In this way, every person we meet becomes a mirror reflecting aspects of our own character. The people who bring us joy and the people who challenge us are all part of our journey toward greater self-awareness and personal growth. By transforming everyone into a teacher, we remain open to the lessons life has to offer, allowing us to maintain a state of equanimity and resilience in the face of adversity. Principle 3. Transform envy into emulation. Envy is a natural human emotion, but it is also a destructive one. When we feel envious of others, whether for their success, possessions, or qualities, we experience a sense of lack and inadequacy. Envy can erode our self-esteem, damage our relationships, and lead to feelings of resentment toward those we envy. In Buddhism, however, there is a powerful way to transform envy into something positive: emulation. The Buddha taught, do not be jealous of others' good qualities, but out of admiration, adopt them yourself. This teaching encourages us to shift our focus from feeling envious of others to being inspired by them. Instead of allowing envy to fester and create negativity, we can use it as a source of motivation for self-improvement. When we see someone who possesses qualities we admire, whether it's their discipline, kindness, intelligence, or success, we can choose to learn from them. What habits, practices, or attitudes have helped them achieve their goals? How can we apply those lessons in our own lives? For instance, if you find yourself feeling envious of a colleague who seems to excel in their career rather than dwelling on feelings of inadequacy, you can shift your mindset to one of curiosity and admiration. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this person's work ethic or approach? How can I improve my own skills to reach a similar level of success? By turning envy into emulation, you focus on your own growth and development, rather than comparing yourself to others. This transformation of envy into inspiration not only helps us avoid negative emotions, but also fosters a sense of connection and goodwill toward others. When we admire and learn from others, we cultivate a sense of community and shared growth. We become less concerned with competition and more focused on mutual support and learning. Moreover, by practicing emulation rather than envy, we develop a mindset of abundance. Instead of seeing others' success as something that diminishes our own, we recognize that there is enough success, happiness, and fulfillment to go around. Each person's achievements become a reminder that we, too, can achieve great things if we put in the effort and dedication. Ultimately, transforming envy into emulation helps us stay focused on our own path of growth and improvement. It frees us from the destructive cycle of comparison and jealousy, allowing us to celebrate the success of others, while also striving for our own personal best. Principle 4. Be strict with yourself but tolerant of others. Buddhism places great emphasis on personal responsibility and self-discipline. At the same time, it encourages compassion and tolerance toward others. This principle teaches us to hold ourselves to high standards while being understanding and forgiving of the faults and shortcomings of others. As the Buddha said, you yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. This quote reflects the importance of self-discipline and self-compassion in the Buddhist path. By being strict with ourselves, we commit to our own growth, mindfulness, and ethical conduct. We take responsibility for our actions and strive to live in accordance with the principles of compassion, honesty, and non-harm. However, being strict with ourselves does not mean being harsh or self-critical. Buddhism teaches the importance of self-compassion, recognizing that we are all works in progress. When we make mistakes, it is essential to learn from them without falling into the trap of self-blame or guilt. On the other hand, when it comes to others, Buddhism encourages tolerance and compassion. Everyone is on their own journey, and each person has their own struggles, challenges, and limitations. Just as we wish to be understood and forgiven for our own mistakes, we should extend the same understanding and forgiveness to others. This principle can be especially helpful in navigating interpersonal conflicts. When someone behaves in a way that frustrates or disappoints us, our natural tendency might be to judge them or react with anger. However, by practicing tolerance, we remind ourselves that everyone is doing the best they can with the knowledge and resources they have. Their actions may stem from their own pain, confusion, or ignorance, and reacting with compassion rather than judgment helps to maintain harmony and understanding. By being strict with ourselves and tolerant of others, we create a balance between personal accountability and compassion. We continue to grow and evolve while maintaining healthy, respectful relationships with those around us. Principle 5. No one can hurt you without your consent. This principle is closely related to the earlier discussion of insults and offenses. Buddhism teaches that our emotional responses to the actions of others are within our control. While external circumstances or the behavior of others may be unpleasant, the Buddha reminded his followers that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. In other words, while we may not be able to avoid all of life's challenges, we can choose how we respond to them. The idea that no one can hurt us without our consent is rooted in the concept of non-attachment. In Buddhism, attachment to external outcomes, possessions, or the approval of others is seen as a source of suffering. When we are overly attached to what others think of us, we give them power over our emotional state. When we let go of attachment to external validation or the need for others to act in a certain way, we free ourselves from the emotional ups and downs caused by other people's words or actions. This doesn't mean that we won't experience pain or disappointment. It means that we don't allow those emotions to take root and control us. Instead, we develop the inner resilience to move past them quickly. To illustrate this point, consider the story of two monks traveling together who encounter a rude person along the way. The person insults them, throws mud at them, and then walks away. One of the monks becomes visibly upset, while the other remains calm. The upset monk complains about the person's rudeness for the rest of the journey. Meanwhile, the calm monk responds, "Why are you still carrying that person with you? They left long ago." The story highlights how, in many cases, we hold on to negative emotions far longer than necessary. The first monk allowed the rude encounter to continue affecting his peace of mind, while the second monk chose to let go and not give the rude person the power to disturb his inner calm. This is what it means when we say that no one can hurt you without your consent. Mindfulness plays a key role in this process. By cultivating mindfulness, we become more aware of our emotional reactions as they arise. We recognize when we are starting to feel hurt, angry, or upset, and we have the opportunity to pause and reflect before reacting. We can ask ourselves, am I going to allow this situation to affect my peace of mind, or can I choose to let it go? The Buddha taught that suffering arises from our attachment to desires and aversions. When we desire for things to be different from how they are, or when we cling to the idea that others should treat us in a certain way, we set ourselves up for disappointment and frustration. By practicing non-attachment, we accept that we cannot control others or the world around us, but we can control our own inner state. In everyday life, this principle can be applied in many ways. For example, if a colleague criticizes you at work, instead of feeling hurt or offended, you can choose to see the situation objectively. Is the criticism valid? If so, it's an opportunity for growth. If not, you can recognize that the criticism is a reflection of the other person's perspective, not a reflection of your worth. In either case, you maintain control over your emotional response, rather than allowing the criticism to destabilize your inner peace. Ultimately, this principle empowers us to take responsibility for our own well-being. It teaches us that we are not victims of circumstance, but active participants in shaping our emotional landscape. By cultivating mindfulness and non-attachment, we develop the strength to remain unshaken by the actions of others, knowing that our inner peace is in our own hands.